Hello, and a very warm good morning to everyone present. Welcome to the first introductory session and of Code with Maps Hackathon, brought to you by Google Maps platform and powered by Hack to Skill. So today, as the tone has been for all the hackathons at Hack to Skill, we'll be having an introductory session, setting up the tone for the hackathon, the objective for what needs to be achieved, what are the expectations, and how you would be the best possible ways to come up with the ideas, and then how to utilize Google Maps APIs to come up with the best of the prototypes, ultimately leading you to the coveted prize monies. So, with this, without wasting much of time, today we have with us, among us, Malvi Himani, product manager at Google Maps platform, as well as joining her would be Nancy Wang, head of customer experience at Google Maps platform. So, hi, please welcome Malvi and Himani onto the stage.
Hi
Yeah,
everyone.
hi Malvi, hi Nancy.
Hello. Right.
Yeah. So, Malvi would like to just put up the stage open for you as well as Nancy to set up the tone for the entire hackathon. What are the nooks and certain, I'd say, for those who have joined the sessions today, certain tips and tricks on how to best utilize Google Maps APIs? What are the segments that we are looking forward to? And again, certain like case studies or the journeys which the participants themselves can utilize during this entire hackathon to come up with the best solutions catering to the Indian ecosystem. So over to you, Malvi.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know Nancy's gonna pull up some slides that we'll walk through, but while she's doing that, I'll just do a quick intro for everyone. Nice to meet you all virtually. I know I can't see any of you, but hopefully you all are very awake right now and excited to go away with some hacking. Like Kaushik said, my name is Malvi Hamani. From a background perspective, I am Gujarati. My family was born and raised in Baroda, and now they all reside in Mumbai. I'm actually planning to come to India in a few weeks. Pretty excited to be back in my hometown. My background also is in computer science. So my first ever hackathon actually was hosted by Google back in college. So I'm really excited to be here today to tell you all about what I'm launching and Nancy and I have been launching with the team on the other side of being actually at Google. We will cover a few things today. We'll cover the different products that we've actually launched recently in India that I think would be great for all of you to know about as you're going about the hackathon. Nancy will then take over and kind of go over a little bit about the hackathon details, share some of the different tips and tricks that Kaushik mentioned. The hackathon is open innovation, so there is no specific problem statement you have to solve, but we have organized the prizes in such a way to encourage you to try solving a problem that solves for India. So with further ado, I'll get started a little bit about our presentation today. So on the next slide, I'm going to cover a little bit about why Google Maps is working in India. As you can imagine, as you all know, as you live there, the pace of change in India is pretty expansive. We on the Google Maps side have been working on India and helping map the world in India for almost 15, 16 years now. And every year we're super excited to see the growing number of startups that come out of India, the rapid innovation, the true excitement that developers have with trying out our products, that we're continuing to look into what we can do better, just to really help solve some of these interesting challenges, and the opportunities continue to lie there. So that's why we're here today, just to really continue that strength in the country and really help solve for what society is looking for around the world. I'm going to go over a few examples of different things that occur in India when it comes to problem statements and kind of walk through the different products, like I mentioned, that we recently launched. Think of these as use cases or examples to help inspire you as to what you might want to do during the hackathon. By no means are they the answer, just meant to be sort of examples. So example number one, imagine that you are building a delivery app, which is pretty common nowadays, and you want to make sure that the food is delivered to the customer. Let's say you're trying to order idli dosa, which is my favorite food. The biggest challenge you might have when you're building this app is really understanding where is that actual door that you need to drop the food at. We know that this is a very common problem in India, especially because addresses are not done in the what typically is done in the past. You do typically refer to addresses as saying 123 street name and then saying across the SK Club or the salon or to the right of this building. And we recognize that, and we've heard all your feedback. And so we actually recently just launched a new feature called address descriptors in our reverse geocoding API. You'll get these addresses now for completely free, no extra cost for the API. And essentially the way it would work is you now get landmark and area name descriptors as part of the address, which is how normally people communicate in India. So we're hoping that this will really help address some of those challenges when it comes to finding where you're going. The most common use case we see for this is what I mentioned, which is the checkout flow. You're trying to purchase something and you want to make sure you get there in the correct way. However, another common feature that we see commonly in this flow is our new Street View feature that we just launched as well. So you might get the right address, but you still may not know where to go. There's lots of different turns in India, lots of complicated street names. You also get confused because there's always a lot of noise on the street and people around. So how do you find your way? Street View was launched recently last year in India, and this 3D imagery, 360 panoramic view really helps you figure out maybe where you want to go. It helps you kind of visualize the different imagery around you, figure out exactly the building or the landmark that you might be trying to find, and you could do it straight from your phone or from an app if you decide to build it via the API. We offer different kinds of Street View images. I put a few up here as examples. You could do streets or markets, historical monuments, tourist areas. You could do restaurants, parks, schools, universities. All different types of places and businesses are offered today in India. Let's go to another example. So let's say another example is you're trying to build a ride sharing app. You're trying to get to work on time. You want to make sure that the route is optimized. You want to make sure you get there safely, and you want to make sure you get on time so your manager doesn't yell at you. The challenge, obviously, in India today that we've learned a lot about is there's two-wheelers and four-wheeler cars and bikes. And how do you ensure that the road that you're going on allows you to actually drive on it? We know that this has been a huge challenge in the past. And so we also are very excited to announce that we recently launched a new API called our Routes API. This new API actually takes all the great innovation that we had in our directions and distance matrices, all the other products we had out there before that really helped you navigate. It's probably the same data and routes you use when you're using our normal consumer app day to day to navigate throughout your life. But now we've packaged it and offered also a two-wheeler option. The great news about this is we also started to add in toll calculations so you can actually see and estimate how much it might cost you. We've also added eco-friendly routing to make sure you really optimize and make sure it's affordable. So we're really excited about this. This launched not too long ago. So if anyone in this room is looking to build something related to distance or directions, definitely take a look at this API. I think it'll be really useful for a lot of the India use cases. The last example I have is delivering food. Everyone loves food, especially me. So if you're trying to build, let's say, a food delivery app, or you're trying to find the closest restaurant to you to go get some biryani for your lunch tiffin, a big challenge here is how do you find that place to go? And you probably want to try something new. With millions of restaurants in India, how do you really find that next new place? So with this, we have increased our place coverage and our businesses offered in the Places API. A lot of people don't recognize that the Places API actually offers more than just a map. It actually has a lot of underlying data that you can leverage to make your user experience way better. Nancy will go over the hackathon details soon, but if you decide to build, let's say, a mobile app, this is a great product to look at when you're trying to provide more details to your customer. So kind of showing some examples here on the left, we have a product called autocomplete. This will be where you can actually show user suggestions as they type. This will help them find that restaurant way faster. In the middle, this is where you can provide more details about that restaurant. So let's say a user wants to know the reviews of the restaurant, or the user might want to look up the menu before they actually go. This is where you can pull some of those rich details that you see maybe in a Google Maps consumer app and now actually provide it to your users on the developer app side. And then the last one is, let's say you're actually trying to order it. Just similar to the address descriptors I mentioned earlier, why have them type that address manually? Allow them to use what's called address autocomplete, where the address will get pre-populated and suggested to them. And we'll make sure that that address is accurate, so you'll get the delivery on time and you won't have any issues. This is a really great use case for a lot of our businesses. Actually, some apps in India are very actively using autocomplete. And if you visit the Hackathon site, we've provided some example use cases of some of the big apps and startups in India that are using some of these products already. And then there's a quick flash right here. These are some of the case studies that you'll see on our Hackathon site that Kaushik can share afterwards. Feel free to let us know if you have any additional questions about how some of these companies are using our products, but it gives you a good idea of the breadth of what's possible with our APIs. So I'll pause there and I'll hand it over to Nancy to kind of talk a little bit about the hackathon.
Hi, thanks everyone for being here. So my name is Nancy. I lead customer experience for Google Maps platform. So really the goal of myself and my team is to work with developers, folks who are building off of our APIs and just really learn how we can make that experience better for them. So to Malvi's earlier comment, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the hackathon itself. So why a hackathon? So as we mentioned, as Malvi mentioned, we've launched a number of new APIs and enriched a lot of our APIs today, specifically for India. So address descriptors, Street View, enhancing our places data. But what we really want to see and why we want a hackathon is we know that as you start to build, we're looking for developers and teams who can help us think about how do we innovate and solve real problems. And so I saw a question in the chat, I think Tafia, asking about the theme or focus for the hackathon. So it's really about innovation. What we're really looking for is seeing how you and your teams can really solve unique problems, whether they're specific to India, because we know some of the nuances there, or even things that can solve global problems. And that's really kind of the main thing that we're looking for. We have these APIs. We want to see what you guys can do with them. So how to get started. So a lot of this is on the Hack to Skill site today, but we just wanted to quickly cover getting started in some of the basics for getting ready. So first of all, register yourself for the hackathon. So obviously you are all here, so I'm hoping that is all because you have registered, or invite or encourage your friends to do so. The next step is to create an account on Google Maps platform. So we will redirect you to the Google Maps platform console, where you'll set up an account. You will need to have some type of payment mechanism in order to create the account, but you will not be charged. And so we do want to have that account in order for you to start building against a project. And then last, please join the Discord group. It's a great place to either connect with other folks to build your team, to ask questions. It's actively monitored, and so we hope you can use this as a resource for you, along with other resources that are on the site. Last day for registration, I think people on this call should know, is October 3rd, and then code submission will be on October 16th, with the finale and demo day on October 29th. Great. So what are the prizes? So we will have cash prizes worth up to $3,000 USD. The top prize, again, speaks to what we're really trying to solve for in this hackathon, which is the best solution to a problem in India or globally. So Malvi talked a bit about some of the challenges with two-wheelers, with traffic, with getting the delivery to the right place. So we're looking for you to help us solve some of these big problems, and looking for that solution for that. In addition to that, we have additional prizes. So we have prizes for the best mobile app. We know that in particular in India, phone and using devices and phone devices and mobile is really critical to how we get and accomplish our day-to-day. So we want to see what you can do in terms of building a mobile app. Obviously want to know, we just launched a set of new APIs and SDKs. How well can you use them? And how creative can you be with them? And then last, we're expecting a whole bunch of really great ideas and solutions and prototypes. And so we do have a set of honorable mentions for those who don't make it to the platform, but obviously deserve that recognition. Great. So just to spur ideas of things that you could think about, I'm sure you already have ideas already, but these are things that we have heard about when we talk to team members or folks out of India, in terms of problems that our people are solving for, or things that people are thinking about. So navigating India on a two-wheeler, three-wheeler, travel and trip planning, delivery marketplaces, ride sharing, EV, electrical vehicle adoption, online shopping, public transportation. I won't go through all of them, but we did just want to share a couple ideas in case you want some extra inspiration in terms of thinking what to build for. Great. And then just a couple of the common APIs. So again, Malvi covered some of these in the examples that she shared earlier of ways people are solving different problems. But we thought, given the suite of APIs we have available, it might be helpful just to get a sense of what are the most common ones that are used. So our Maps SDK for iOS and Android is great for a mobile app. A lot of users or developers today use it to show interactive maps, such as, hey, I want to see the close locations near me, nearby points of interest. So if I'm in a specific location, where are the places that I can go to? Our Places API, so we talked a bit about the checkout example, so you can easily populate an address. You can also find information like reviews, ratings, distance to certain locations. So in a social app setting, this could be a way to help plan the next meal that you want to take, or find the closest hospital, for example. Our Street View API, so that's recently launched. We saw some visuals of that earlier, but how can we use some of those visuals to create interesting, helpful solutions? Address descriptors, again, thinking through not just the address itself, but what are landmarks to make it easier to get to a place that you need to get to. And then, as Malvi spoke to, two-wheeler navigation. So these are just some of the most common APIs. We do have a number of APIs across different mapping, routes, places, directions, all sorts, but these are the ones that we see most commonly used. Great. And so that is very brief, but we just wanted to give you, this group, an introduction to what the hackathon is about, help spur some ideas of things that you can build for. And so I think at this point, we're ready to help answer any questions and see how we can be helpful for this group.
Yeah, Nancy. So we have a couple of questions in the chat section. So if we could just directly answer them by looking into the comment section, we can just uh, answer them directly over here, or we could just pick them up and put it up on the screen. So
Yeah, either works. We could, if it's easy to put on screen, we could put it on screen, and then we can answer them as we go through.
yeah, sure. I'll just put up some.
I can start answering the first one while you pull it up. I think there were, like I said, the hackathon. Hopefully, throughout Nancy's slides, we were able to cover that. But just to reiterate, the goal would be that you would think about how to innovate broadly, really to solve a specific user problem or business or societal problem. We really want to try to think about innovation at large. Ideally, you solve for India. That would be awesome. Obviously, you all know the ecosystem very well. But even if you think of something that's more broad or global, that's awesome as well. If you look at the prize categories, I think that'll be your best guiding light. First one being building for India or globally, second one being a mobile app, and the third one being using our most recently launched APIs or products for India. So use those kind of three as your problem statement guidelines.
And then I see there's another question about, are there resources available throughout the hackathon? So yes, there will be. And I think if you check the Hack to Skill site website, there's a great timeline there where you can see when when you can start to access office hours, upcoming workshops. So basically, we will have office hours for you to connect with either Google team members or experts in the industry that can help you brainstorm or give you some guidance on what you're building. We will have an upcoming workshop with one of our technical engineers on the call who can maybe help answer some more technical questions. And then we have a lot of links I would actually encourage you to take a look at to our developer documentation, which has a ton of examples, code examples that can help you even with some of the more basic coding and kind of common code samples that developers often use.
And they also have the use cases. So if you want to see how X app in India has built with Google Maps, that'll really give you a good idea of what kind of products they're using.
Yeah, just to add to what Nancy and Malvi had answered on the resources section, once you register onto the hackathon and land onto the team dashboard, you will find the entire dedicated resource section wherein you can have a look at certain videos which are getting started with Google Maps API, how to utilize them, or how to get initiated with your first project, and then other a lot of set of documentations regarding Google Maps API which you can utilize onto. And as well as the next steps that you need to take up while the registrations and the idea submissions are going on. It would highly be suggested for all the participants that go explore the Google Maps platform, try utilizing the Google Maps API. You will get the API key once you land onto the dashboard. Go to the link that's present or for the Google Maps platform, and then utilize the API key to explore with your projects and see your idea come to fruition.
Great. Just going through these questions. So there was a question around what advice do you have for participants to make the most out of their hackathon experience? Malvi, do you want to take a
I
first?
can go
I
first.
saw you smiling, so I feel like you have.
Well, my first hackathon was Google. It's like bringing me back, and I actually won that hackathon. I'm very proud of myself. No, I think that first of all, hackathons are meant to be fun. People join hackathons because they really like to code or they want to try to learn something new. So please, the first biggest thing I would say is have a good time and have fun. I would also encourage you to use this as an opportunity to meet someone else to work with, even if it is someone you already know. It's a great collaboration. I mean, in the real world and when we're solving real world problems like we're trying to do with this hackathon, you never do it alone. You're always in a team environment. This is a great way to simulate that. The only other thing I would say is ask questions when you're stuck. The last thing I would want is for all of you to be debugging or struggling through something that maybe one of us on the team or the Hack to Skill team or a mentee or mentor can help you with. And that's where you can leverage Discord as well to kind of ask questions for the broader community. So just try to leverage the resources at your expense. I know as a past developer, I like to solve the problems myself, but the goal is for you to get to the end state that you want. So don't do it in a painful manner. Feel free to ask help. I don't know, Nancy, if you want to add anything.
No, that was very well put. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so how will intellectual property and ownership of projects be handled? So when you create your project, so obviously you are committed, you're providing a submission to us as part of the hackathon, and we will evaluate as part of just the rewards process. But the project itself is yours, so it is under your billing account, or it's kind of under your account. It's your own property. So in this context, like it is your intellectual property. We can't publish or use it without your permission. Hopefully that answers questions. Kaushik or Molly, feel free to add any additional context.
I'd say that completely answers the questions of IP rights, that participants have it with them own, and the projects that they would be building would be owned by them. So yeah.
Okay. I'll keep reading through, or Molly, feel free to hop in too. Okay, so we have a question about, are there plans for post-hackathon support, mentorship, or funding opportunities for promising projects? So we don't have any, so in general, like what we are looking for is great ideas, right? And I think part of the judging process is you'll have the opportunity essentially to share your projects and your ideas with product managers and engineering teams across Google. And I think, obviously, like we are there throughout the process to support and to mentor. We don't have any specific plans for promising projects, but I do think like there is this opportunity to showcase what you're doing throughout the hackathon that could have like future potential connections, but we don't guarantee anything. It's really during the hackathon that this mentorship occurs.
The next question is, how does billing work for using Google Maps platform APIs? Are there any cost considerations I should be aware of? So I guess at a high level, the way that you would set up, like Nancy mentioned, is you would need a credit card or debit card or payment instrument in general to set up your account to get an API key. I just want to clarify the reason for that is for verification. You will not be charged. Every account, no matter how you sign up, will always get automatically $200 USD worth of free monthly credits. And this will happen every month. And so as you're building, you will have enough credits in your account to start to build your hackathon project. and I can guarantee you many people will stay under that dollar amount. There is inside of your Cloud Console, I believe another question was asked, a way to set quota limits. So if you are worried about getting charged or you plan to try a bunch of things out, so you don't know what it might lead to, feel free to set a quota limit and it'll send you an email warning as you get closer to the $200. So you will know before you get charged as well. In addition, Nancy and I actually just launched a large project with our team where we gave 40% off to all of Google Map platform APIs and SDKs. And so there is a discount currently occurring on all the product pricing as well. So you will be charged a lot less if you were to hypothetically scale this project after the hackathon into an actual startup or a business as well. So it's a great time to maybe ideate a new business idea if that is something you are thinking about doing. The last part of your question, are there any cost considerations? No, there really isn't, but I would encourage you for the APIs that you are planning to use, please take that extra 5 minutes to look at the developer documentation. There is always a tips and tricks section about payments. So for instance, our Places API, you don't want to by default call all the data from the API. It will charge you for everything. Instead, only request what you want in terms of data points. So there are a lot of tips and tricks like that inside the dev docs. So please just check those out. It'll really help you out when you're managing your cost. Nancy, did I miss anything?
No, that's perfect. Thank you. I just want to, I think Codeman Lifestyle, I think you have a couple questions around security that you've thrown into the chat. It may be helpful just, to have more context on what you're looking for here, the specific question. So what I was going to recommend, in the kind of dashboard that you have, there is an email address to reach out to us. I believe it's, I'm losing it. I'm missing the name right now. It's maps-india-outreach@google.com. If I could ask you to just draft an email and send it to that alias, my sense is like the response may be like more nuanced depending on specifically what you're asking for or thinking about. And so we do just want to make sure we give you the right answer. But please do that, and we'll make sure to respond to your question.
The only other thing I'd add is, assuming the security was more about avoiding anything happening to your project, there is a way to secure your API key, which we highly encourage you all to do also on that Cloud Console. When you onboard, we actually will nudge you to do it automatically. So feel free to just follow those steps. That'll help you avoid any fraud of your API key or any accidental usage. So I highly encourage you to secure it. You can always change it later to a different domain or things like that as well. That might help also with just the basic level of security. Good practice. I think the next question is, can I integrate Google Maps with other services or platforms? Nancy, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Yes, you can, definitely. So feel free to integrate with Firebase or Google Cloud. It's not required. I would just say, just make sure you are aware of any kind of their own kind of pricing or cost mechanisms. I believe for both Google Cloud and Firebase, there should be credits or free usage just as part of getting started, as part of an initial entry use with the product. But I would just caution you to just make sure you understand any of the terms associated with them. Okay, how can participants continue to be involved or contribute to the project after the hackathon? So, our hope, and this is why I think to Malby's point, we hope you have fun, we hope you meet people, and we hope you get really, really excited about what you're building. So we would encourage, after the hackathon, if this is something that you enjoy doing, continue building it. You might have the next billion-dollar solution out there. And so we'd really, really encourage you to continue, getting involved and can continue to build out essentially a business off of what your project is.
100%. +1 to that. Does Google own satellite? I'm assuming the question is referring to whether we offer satellite images via an API for developers. Is that how you're interpreting it too, Nancy?
I believe so, but Rishi, if you want to clarify in the comments, we can track to get to make sure we understand. But I believe so.
If that is the case, we do have multiple APIs that offer 2D, 3D, like 360, like the street view, and lots of other imagery and immersive experiences is what we call it. And a lot of them are available or recently available in India. So definitely take a look. We heavily focus on Street View because that is super useful for a lot of the directions and routing use cases in India, but there are other capabilities also available. We did recently launch a 3D like drone style video as a beta. It's not available in India yet, but it is coming soon. But there are plenty of other imagery related APIs available, Rishi. So feel free to take a look at those. And like Nancy mentioned, feel free to email that email. It goes directly to our inbox and we'll answer any other questions you might have about it.
Can you share tips for presenting and pitching hackathon projects effectively? So I think Malvi and I probably have ideas, but I'm actually wondering, Kaushik, since you've run a number of these hackathons, if there's any advice that you would want to share.
Yeah, so I'd say like in this hackathon journey, considering this stage that we are right now, which is the idea submissions, the focus for all the participants should be more towards submitting the getting that idea that they want to work upon, and then start working on building that prototype. While again, pitching is something which is very essential, but that comes up only post the idea validations and the project completion. During the pitching, again, it's something which you need to keep in mind is the evaluation parameters, which are like put up on the website. You can just have a look at it. There are 4 types of evaluation criteria which would be utilized for evaluations of the ideas, as well as the similar lines. The pitching should be on how well you are utilizing the Google Maps API in your project and how complete your project is, making it a full complete circle. So that is what I'd say. And again, keeping the pitch precise and then building the backstory behind that idea generation is something which is very essential, so that you connect well with the jury members on the presentation time. So that is it what I'd say. But again, Malvi and Nancy, if you have feel like to add something, would be really helpful.
Yeah, no, I think those are great tips. So thank you for sharing that. The only thing I would also add to that, both in the submission as well as just the pitch itself, is like, just make it super clear what is the problem that you're solving for. Like, why are you building this? And that helps the audience and the jury connect a lot more quickly to what you're building.
100%. I was going to say the same thing. And just to add to that, Nancy, to answer someone else's question, you don't need to give us the revenue opportunity or the estimation of the revenue of this problem. Really focus in on the problem of the user or the business or the end user. If you can tell us that problem as a story or as numerically, if that's what you prefer, that's totally fine. But don't feel the pressure to have to go calculate revenue numbers. We'd rather you spend that time on the innovation and building the idea out. It's always great sometimes to have numbers, but feel free to only do that as a nice to have.
Great. So we have a question about, are there any specific technologies or tools that one should consider using? So hopefully the presentation was helpful. We shared with you some of the most common APIs that developers build with, and more specifically, I think that could be relevant for this hackathon in itself. Again, I will refer this team to your dashboard. Where you registered, because there is an entire documentation and resource section that can give you more tips on technologies and tools.
Yeah, there's another question like, can Google Maps API be integrated with IoT devices or sensor data for location based applications?
Yes, it can. If there are very more specific questions on it, please, I would say, like, and Malvi, feel free to jump in if you want to elaborate more, but I would say definitely like send an email to us and we'll help you respond to that. But yes, we are in some IoT devices today. So it is a common use case.
Yeah, as long as the actuators are connected with their microcontrollers and it has a proper set of like the backend written over there, which is interacting with the actuators APIs, then it's perfectly gonna work. Again, if you have got any further questions, you have got 2 email IDs listed for technical queries. We'll drop in the chat as well. For any technical queries, you can write to the Google email ID provided for the support. And for any hackathon related queries, you can write to the Hack to Skill support ID over there.
Okay. I think we answered the next one around the business side. And then I think Amit's question is next about criteria.
Mhm.
I think Kaushik mentioned it. It is on the Hack to Skill Hackathon website, but I can quickly review it. It's a 4-part scoring criteria. They're all of equal weightage. So the first will be around implementation, really understanding what APIs were used, how did you actually implement and demonstrate the use of Google Maps platform. The second category will be innovation. We're all here around innovation. So how creative and unique was the project that you created? Communication will be the third bucket. How effectively did you communicate the idea? And then the last will be user experience. So thinking about the design of how the experience went for the user. Was the project well thought out in terms of number of steps and things like that? And so those will be the 4 scoring criteria that we will use to judge the winners.
Great. Kodar Safar, I think you had a question about, can you elaborate more about this? Hopefully, I'm not sure which question this was referring to, but hopefully we answered it. Otherwise, feel free to reframe the question in the chat and we'll make sure we answer it properly. Great. So how can participants stay informed and updated throughout the hackathon? Kaushik, you want to cover this one?
Yeah, definitely. So, as you might have received the notification for today's AMA session over your WhatsApp as well, along with the email and uh, all the communication channels that you are marked in. So, make sure you check out your inboxes on the mail, as well as keep looking for the dashboard updates, because all the updates and the timeline would be up on the website. So, you have got 3 platforms wherein we'd be notifying you your emails directly to your emails, to your WhatsApp, as well as to the dashboard, as well as pretty frequently you might receive telecall support from our side as well regarding the next steps if you are not proceeding, or if you are just to pulse check with you on how you are proceeding with the hackathon. So
Great, thank you. Okay. Can you share examples of successful projects or innovations using Google Maps APIs?
I think there's like 6 or 7 use case examples, Kaushik, on the Hack to Skill Hackathon website. Once again, if you go to the dashboard, I think there's a resources tab, if I'm not mistaken, is what it's called, in the
yeah.
last top right. There you'll see actually all of them listed for you. They're all India-based companies, and they all kind of detail exactly what APIs they've used and how they use them. I think hopefully that'll provide some successful examples, but feel free once again to email us if there's a specific idea you're thinking about and you want help brainstorming it or better understanding how to flesh it out. We're happy to point you in the right direction.
Yeah, there are 6, as you mentioned. There are 6 use cases, or basically the examples of successful implementation of Google Maps API on the resources section on your dashboard. So for all things related, again I'd say, for all your queries, if you are looking for something of a documentation or a resource or a guide, do check out the resources section. You have got it completely compiled for you. And if at all then you feel like there's something which is not present, or your questions or queries have not been answered, you can just directly write to us and we'll make sure that the support, adequate amount of support, is provided to you.
How are we benefited from participating in this hackathon beyond winning prizes? So, I mean, I could take a first pass on my side is, I mean, I think generally, like, we are hoping that with this hackathon, I think to Malvi's earlier comment, like, this gives you a chance, one, to meet other folks, right? Meet other people, to collaborate, to build more relationships. I do think, like, as part of this hackathon, you do have a chance to connect to industry experts or Google team members as part of the development and design process. But I think that the biggest thing for us is, like, we're hoping it'll inspire you to innovate and solve big problems. I know it sounds, like, very, like, idealistic, but I mean, that's really that is really the reason why we wanted to run this hackathon to begin with.
I think the only thing other I would add is, if you're not familiar with Google Maps platform at all, I think this is a really great opportunity for you to also tinker and learn about the products that we offer, both for India and also just generally worldwide. as you go beyond into your careers or whatever future journeys you have. Location and geolocation and mapping needs are always tend to be present nowadays, especially as the world turns to go more onto the phone and more online. So I think it'd be a great opportunity just from a learning perspective for yourself as well. So even if that's all you get out of it, I think that that would be great for wherever you see yourself in the future career-wise too.
Great. How can I design my application to be scalable in terms of both user base and geographic coverage? So my sense, but Malvi, feel free to jump in on this one. It's gonna depend a bit on like what you're building for and what your solution is. So this is one where I may recommend you email our technical alias so that we can help think that even further. I would also say specifically for this hackathon and what you need to submit, you don't need to necessarily make it fully scalable. Really what we're looking for is a prototype of what you want, like of your idea or your solution. And so ideally, your time is spent more on kind of the user experience and the solution, not necessarily worrying so much about the scalability of the product itself. Malvi, anything else to add to that?
Well, the only other thing I'd add is the way Google Maps platform APIs work is you get to set location boundaries for a lot of our APIs, especially those that query geo-specific data. And so you could always location base it just to one country or one region for now. And then whenever you're ready to scale the business, if you decide to do so, you can remove that boundary and make it available to other regions or globally. So don't feel the pressure, to Nancy's point, to have to figure that all out right now. You can build it. And typically, even on the product side, when we always build a prototype for one specific user group, whether that be a region or a specific problem. And then you can scale from there. If you try to solve the whole world, you might run into some challenges because there's every world, every region, every language is very different. So start, I would say, smaller. The next question, does it have to be a mobile app or a web app? No, web app is totally fine. One of the prizes is a mobile app, but you do not need to submit for that prize category. So a web app is totally fine. If you also choose to do something like a React Native where it works on multiple platforms, that's also totally fine as well.
Which programming languages can I use with Google Maps APIs? Are there SDKs available for specific platforms, Android, iOS, web?
I guess I can take this one because I just mentioned it. Yes, there are. There is Android and iOS SDKs, both of which the base map is completely free. And then you build on top of that in terms of APIs or using our more complex SDK features. But yes, both of those are actually linked in the resources that Kaushik mentioned. So you can go ahead and learn a little bit more about both those SDKs. And I believe there's actually a completely packaged sample code for both of those SDKs available to download on our developer documentation as well. So you don't have to start from completely scratch.
All right, next question. What are some recommended testing strategies for ensuring the reliability and accuracy of location-based features?
It's a good question. I'm not super technical, so I will give you my best answer. And then this could be another good question that we get in engineering to provide some additional help. First, I do think from a testing perspective, you can call the APIs and see what the JSON response is just to better understand how the data will come back to you from the API call. And then from there, you can go ahead and build out how you want to leverage that data. I think my biggest recommendation is, and common mispractices we see, is you build out the UI, and then as you're testing, you're calling the API too many times, and that starts to rack up your calls. So be careful about that. Maybe focus first on getting a lay of the land of the data, and then build the UI afterwards. You can also create a testing environment and then more of a production style environment. You can easily make 2 API keys in our console to help separate the two for yourself. But those are typically best practices we've seen. I don't know, Kaushik, if you would have anything else you've seen through other hackathons.
I'd say it's sums up because again, what we'd like to reiterate is that it is more towards the prototyping stage, and as well as building prototypes, and not a completely scalable, deployable project as of now at the immediate juncture. So, as long as you like, for many, even unit testing would be fully functional for making sure that their prototype or the project is working fine.
Awesome.
Great. So I think we have a few Street View related questions. Malvi, if you can perhaps help me with these, but is there anything to work with Street View in Google Maps platform?
Yeah, so there is a Street View API, and it is launched in India in multiple cities and metros now. If you go to the developer documentation and look up the Street View API, you should be able to see exactly how to call it and the return of the image and the data that comes back. I believe they're also in the documentation will list out the exact cities of coverage, so you can get a good idea of what is covered versus what is not. I'm not sure about the question around real-time Street View. That's a little bit lower. I assume what is meant by that is real time in the sense that it's the current second that you're rendering the video. We do not typically do that because for safety reasons, we want to make sure that we don't have people's faces or license plates or other things like that in the images. But you are able to see Street View images very freshly created. Our coverage is very good, and all the imagery is done very fresh, especially in India since we recently launched it. So hopefully I answered your question. I don't know, Nancy, if you interpreted it differently.
No, that's how I interpreted it also.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, if this is a startup working with exclusive IP, should we withdraw given no further scope beyond the hackathon? I don't. So I think one thing I will highlight is even outside of the hackathon itself, we do have a startup program for Maps where we do provide startup credits, and in particular for people who are building geolocation, based solutions that could leverage that. So I would say outside of the hackathon itself, I would encourage you to look into the startup credits program because it could be a good way for you to scale what you're building. And take advantage of kind of those credits as well as the discount that Malvi had cited earlier. But in terms of what that means in terms of being in a hackathon, Kaushik or Malvi, any thoughts specifically on this one?
Yeah, I'd say something like you will get an exposure to present or interact with the mentors or the jury who are like day in and day out working with the Google Maps platform at scalable solutions, wherein you can get some invaluable advices or experiences on how to better utilize your Google Maps in your startup. I'd say so that is something which I'd say would be an invaluable experience in interacting with those industry experts as well as the jury members from Google, from the industry, who utilize it in building the scalable solutions that we see day in and day out. So I'd say that is something which you should look forward to.
Okay. Hopefully that answers the question, but again, feel free to reach out if you want to discuss it more. So the next question, how can I minimize the number of API requests while providing a seamless user experience?
You are able to set quota limits, like I mentioned earlier. If you do set those, they are in your cloud console. So where you onboard to set up your account, it'll be in the same place on the left menu side. You will see an option to set quotas. What would happen when you set a quota is if the quota is met, then no more calls can be made that day or that month, depending on how your quota was set up. So that could be the best way to set up any sort of increase of API calls. That would obviously provide potentially not a great user experience if you start to have a very low quota and you have a lot of users and growing as a business. This is probably where I would encourage you to email us. We can probably help you with some other tactics, especially if you imagine yourself scaling as a business. Nancy mentioned we have startup credits. We also have our 40% discount. Those combined together will probably help you actually scale a lot faster and probably not worry too much about this increased scale of cost. So let's talk offline. If you don't mind, send us an email. But at a minimum, as you're building and testing, definitely set quotas. That'll at least be the best way for you to get started. How can I integrate indoor mapping and navigation features? I think is the next question. Nancy, this is what we offer, I believe, in our consumer app, right?
Yes. We don't have indoor mapping features today in our Google Maps platform suite of APIs, unfortunately.
But if it's something you're interested in, definitely send us an email. We will add it to the list of feature requests. Thank you for calling it out. Can I import and integrate custom? Yes, there is a way to import and integrate custom geospatial data sets. If you, once again, I'll direct you to the Google Maps platform developer documentation. There is a way to add your own data sets. You could do it via API. You could do it via like a database. You could use cloud on the Google Cloud side. But there are multiple examples there. I believe there's a code sample, for instance, for collecting like earthquake data via an API and things like that. So definitely take a look at that. If you have trouble finding it, feel free to send us a note and we'll send you the link.
Okay. So there are a number, I think, of the earlier question around if this is a startup working with exclusive IP, should we withdraw? I don't know if there is a copy and paste answer. It's a question many folks are interested in, but hopefully we answered it earlier. If the concern is around an exclusive IP and what that means, the implications of that for the hackathon, like feel free to also send us an email. We can talk about it. We can discuss it in more detail. I'm not sure if that's like where this question is stemming from. So we just want to make sure we're answering the question appropriately for what you're looking for.
Great. And if the exclusive IP is data-based, let's say you have some exclusive data that you don't want to share yet, feel free to also just kind of fake the data for the purposes of a demo. So if, let's say, the data is healthcare data, which I know could be potentially proprietary, you could just make up a bunch of fake names and fake birthdays and fake people, which sounds bad, but you get what I'm trying to say. And then use that as the demo, show us the projects, potentially win the money, and then feel free to obviously use your real data when you launch. But if it is beyond data and you want to chat more about it, to Nancy's point, feel free to email us.
I think I see one last one in here, which is, can we integrate satellite image of home with the code to monitor home safety?
You could, in theory, do it if you had an API that had all the satellite images. It'd be basically a third-party data set that you'd integrate into whatever platform you're building, a web or an app. So assuming you have access to those satellite images of the home, then yes, you should be able to integrate into whatever you're building. I don't believe we have out-of-the-box satellite imagery right now of homes, at least.
No.
We did launch some pretty exciting environmental and sustainability APIs, actually literally I think 2 weeks ago now. And those do have a lot of really exciting home-related features. So Sanjeev, if you decide to do anything related to home safety, definitely take a look at some of those new environmental and sustainability APIs.
What is ONDC project with Hack to Skill?
Kaushik, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So that's another exciting hackathon that we are doing along with Google Cloud and ONDC. So do check it out. While I'd say again, then first, since you have registered for Google Maps hackathon, I'd say focus over here, because ONDC hackathon or the Build for Bharat hackathon registrations for the participants should start later on. Right now, it's the problem statement submission stage that we are currently in. So till then you can work on your Google Map API, and might be you can utilize that project for your ONDC hackathon as well.
Yes, there are some APIs that could work well there.
Yeah.
Perfect. Can we connect with you on LinkedIn so we have faster and better communication? So my recommendation, join the Discord group and use the aliases that are on your dashboard, both for the technical questions and just hackathon questions, and that will be the fastest way for us to get back to you.
Yeah, I responded to a few today, so I'm actively on Discord.
Great.
Yeah, so that brings up to the closer of the questions and answer questions that were coming up. So with this, Malvi and Nancy, while the participants are working upon their ideas and trying to utilize on and explore how to utilize Google Maps API, any I'd say closing words from both of you in terms of what anything special that they should keep in mind for those who have come up over here, joined us early morning on Friday, so that they could have an added leverage for the hackathon. That would be a bonus for them.
Ooh, Nancy, you go first.
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I will say, like, we're really interested in solving like real problems that people are facing day to day, and I think that's gonna be what's gonna make you stand out, right? So think about, like, as you're going through your day, or like when you look around on your way to work or wherever you're headed, like what do you see, and how can you solve for it? I think that's really like what will really resonate, and what we really like are interested in seeing what people can do with our APIs to create those solutions.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think if you're struggling to come up with an idea, which I know is tough, feel free to just ask some of your friends over the weekend, like what was a big issue you had today, or what was a challenge you had, or as you're going throughout your day, to Nancy's point, like write down like what thing annoyed you, or what was like frustrating, or what took longer than you wanted it to take. I feel like those are going to be the inspirations that will really drive the coolest and the newest innovations out there. And then I want to harp on what I said earlier. I really hope you all have fun. I've loved working on Google Maps platform. I love using Google Maps every day. I feel like building with some of these APIs is really exciting. There's some really cool features, immersive experiences, just really cool things out there. And I think a lot of this hackathon's purpose is for you to explore and understand and really leverage them in new ways. So I hope that you have as much fun as we would like you to all have. Oh, and then I think, the sample project, last question. Yes, so there isn't one that has every single API in it. That would probably be very hard for you to parse through. We have so many APIs. But there is code samples for every single one. So if you go to the developer documentation, the main page will show you all the list of APIs. If you click into each one, all the way on the left, you'll see a sample project for each of them. They all open into like a JS Fiddle or into other code editors, and you don't even need to sign up yet. You can just play around in Fiddle and get a feel for what each API means. And then once you've decided on your APIs, feel free to then onboard and kind of get started. So that would be my recommendation to you. In the resources tab, there is also something called the solution library page. On that page, there are pre-packaged solutions, things like the checkout that I mentioned earlier, things like the place details that I mentioned earlier. All of those are already pre-packaged and written in code for you. So you can even just copy paste those and start with those as a base level project. Hopefully that helps. Awesome. Kaushik, hopefully that was a good closing statement.
Yeah, definitely, Malvi. I'd say like that would help a lot of the folks who have joined in and give them some insightful nooks, I'd say, and corners to come up with great solutions. So while we close this entire introductory session, I'd say for people who are looking forward to or are having certain queries on how to utilize the Google Maps APIs, we'll be coming up with further workshops, I'd say, in which we'd be taking you through a hands-on on how to utilize Google Maps API, in which we'd be taking you through on how to utilize it in your project and incorporate it directly into your project. So all of those would be taken care of. We'd be having all of those coming up in the coming next few weeks, as well as make sure the stage right now is for the registration and idea submission. So make sure you are able to form your team. If you want your friends to join your team, please make sure you invite them. And then the next step obviously would be to explore the sections that are present on your team dashboard, specifically the resource section. Start with creating your Google Maps account if you haven't created on a platform, and if you already have, utilized the API key and explore certain of the API keys listed over there, so that you can see what are the scopes or what are the foundations that you might have in terms of building your project or the prototype in the ideation stage itself. And then we'll have a lot of sessions coming up, both being the hands-on workshops plus AMAs plus office hours with the mentors, so that you can be guided both in terms of like how to utilize Google Maps API, as well as have dedicated sessions wherein your one-on-one questions could be handled directly. And apart from that, I'd say you have got the Discord forum, to which we'd be soon bringing in a lot of moderators directly from our side, so that your questions are directly handled by the Google team of present over here. As well as do check out your mail inboxes for all the tips that might come up over, as well as the sessions that would be lined up. So do check it out and start creating your ideas right now and exploring the Google Maps API. That is what the stage is right now, and then we can proceed further. So, Malvi, Nancy, before we wrap up the session, like anything else that might have come up from both of you?
No, I mean, just it's really exciting to see all the questions in chat. Like, I actually did not expect so many questions. So we're just it's nice to see so much interest in the hackathon.
Yeah, the folks are pretty excited, and it's something which is like a new challenge for the developers out there to utilize one of the API features which which most of us utilize in our day-to-day life without knowing the impact that it is creating in our lives. The way retail app is utilizing it, or a delivery app is utilizing it, is something which is beyond expectations, or something which people might have thought like 5 years back over here in India, definitely. So that is something which developers should be taking up as a challenge on how they can build the next big tech organization out of the utilizing these APIs. So all the best to all the participants. Do make sure that you write, if you have got any queries, feel free to write us on Discord or mail us directly on the two email handles that are present over here. For any technical queries, write to the Google mail handle, and for any of the non-technical queries or hackathon related queries, like when are the sessions gonna be happening, how to what should be the best way of curating the idea submission, or anything that you need in terms of hackathon support, you can write to the hack to skill handle. And then see you again soon in the next session. Thank you everyone, thanks a lot for joining, and once again thanks Nancy and Malvi for taking us through this exciting I'd say the session in which we introduced to them the entire initiative as well as the objective for the hackathon. Thank you all, thanks a lot.
Thank you.